We're back on the Sports Zone. I am Mike Aglialoro. With the 2014 NFL Draft approaching on May 8th, we're going to go back to Sports Zone's division by division preview, the look at each team's offseason improvements thus far and what areas they still need to improve upon heading into the NFL Draft. And today we're going to look at the NFC South. Now, the NFC South is one of those divisions where it just kind of always seems like the four teams in the division are never really that far apart. You look at this division, it was only 3 years ago that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a 10-win season. The New Orleans Saints were Super Bowl champions within the last 5 years as well, before the whole Bountygate scandal, and they went back to the postseason last year. The Atlanta Falcons were within breaths of being Super Bowl contenders barely 2 seasons ago. But injuries to Roddy White and Julio Jones led to one of the worst seasons they've had over the last 6 years. And as a result of all this, Riverboat Ron Rivera, Cam Newton, and the Carolina Panthers seemingly came from out of nowhere last year to dominate the division and secure the number 2 spot in the playoffs out of the NFC. We're going to take a look right now at the teams that have improved and the teams that still need to take a tremendous step forward. We're going to start at the bottom of the division. Greg Schiano was unceremoniously dumped by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after a miserable 4-12 season. A very overrated coach during his tenure with a lot of hype that never really amounted to anything more than his defense going after the center when they were going for a kneel on the final play, as we saw them do numerous times. With his departure, Lovie Smith takes over as head coach, and as a result, the Buccaneers have added arguably as many, if not more, players than any other team in the NFL. They started off the offseason by cutting Darrelle Revis. They cut their offensive lineman Gabe Carmini, who wound up signing with the rival Atlanta Falcons, and they also cut guard Davin Joseph, while trading wide receiver Mike Williams after another run-in with the law this offseason. And Lovie Smith brought in a lot of players who you can call his guys, starting with the former Green Bay Packers center Evan Dietrich Smith, defensive end from the Cincinnati Bengals Michael Johnson, Alteron Werner, the star cornerback from the Tennessee Titans, Josh McCown, the quarterback, Clinton McDonald, the defensive tackle from the Seattle Seahawks, Anthony Collins, the offensive tackle from the Cincinnati Bengals, Dane Fletcher, linebacker formerly of the Patriots, Major Wright, one of Lovie Smith's former players, the safety from the Chicago Bears, and Brandon Myers, the tight end from the New York Giants. So they've completely revamped this team, and they're hoping to get Doug Martin, the star running back off of his injury. He went down early last season. They were able to recover. I know the running back Mike James made a pretty big impact when he came back. They may wind up going for another running back in the draft, depending on how they feel Martin's recovery is going. But they need a banner year from him for that offense to thrive. They already have the quarterback controversy, as Josh McCown has been named the starter over second-year man Mike Glennon, who had a really good rookie season last year. And you get the feeling if he was drafted by Lovie, he probably would be starting. This is just a case of a new regime coming in wanting their guy. In the end, the defense is much improved as far as what they're looking to add in the draft. Like I said, you might see something at running back to go depth behind Doug Martin. They're going to be looking at some linebacker depth to go next to star linebacker Levante David. They're probably going to be looking for another wide receiver. They need a big physical one to match up with Vinny Jackson. And they're probably going to be looking for some depth on the offensive line, particularly the right guard position. So moving up the ladder, we're going to go to the Atlanta Falcons next. The Falcons, like I said, this close to a Super Bowl a couple seasons ago, and after losses to all-pro wide receivers Roddy White and Julio Jones for various portions of the year, the bottom completely fell out on their team, and they finished out 4-12. They went into this offseason needing a lot of pieces on defense and needing some reinforcements for their offensive line, and they got a little of both already. They added Javier Arenas at cornerback. As I said, they signed Gabe Carmini, the offensive lineman formerly of the Buccaneers. They added Devin Hester for some depth in the wide receiver and return games. They added the defensive tackle from the Miami Dolphins, Paul Salai, the cornerback of the Washington Redskins, Josh Wilson, John Asamoah, offensive lineman who can play tackle and guard from the Kansas City Chiefs, and Tyson Jackson, defensive tackle, also formerly of the Chiefs. Even though neither one of them got heavy minutes last year, they're going to be counted on for some big roles this year. And they also added another defensive back, formerly of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Terrell Lowry. Only one major loss, they cut Thomas McCord, the safety who signed with the Carolina Panthers. A lot of re-signings, though. Joe Hawley at center, Corey Peters at defensive tackle, Mike Johnson, the offensive tackle, John Babineau, and Perrin Jerry at defensive tackle as well. They go into this year's draft looking for some depth at safety, and they would love a star cornerback. They've added some good depth in their secondary, but they don't have anybody that really stands out at you. So they could use one of those definitely. Some more depth at the offensive tackle position, one or two more linebackers, and they're going to need a little more depth either at wide receiver or a tight end to replace the legendary Tony Gonzalez. They would also like a running back of the future. Steven Jackson is still getting up there in years. Jaquez Rogers is a good change of pace running back, but he's not an every down back. We're going to continue moving up. We're going to go to the Carolina Panthers, the defending division champions. They've taken a little bit of a step back this offseason simply because they don't have a wide receiving core right now. They made the biggest blunder of the offseason that isn't how Dallas handled the DeMarcus Ware situation by cutting one of the staples of their franchise, the wide receiver Steve Smith, who was, of course, immediately signed by the Baltimore Ravens barely 5 hours after he was released. They also saw Ted Ginn Jr. sign with the Arizona Cardinals, and they let Brandon LaFell go to the New England Patriots. As it stands right now, their top three wide receivers are Jericho Cotchery, Jason Avant, and Tyquan Underwood, which is going to be a problem for Cam Newton as he looks to build on what was a great third season for him. So obviously their major need in the draft is going to be a big physical wide receiver or two. They're going to need a little bit of offensive line help to protect Cam Newton's blind side, and they're going to need some help in the secondary. Last season, they saw a lot of success with a lot of players they signed to one-year contracts, and all those players basically left them this past season. Mike Mitchell, the safety, went to Pittsburgh. Captain Munnerlyn, the cornerback, went to the Minnesota Vikings. They did replace these guys with Thomas McCord, the safety of the Falcons, like I said, Antoine Cason, the cornerback formerly of the Arizona Cardinals, and Roman Harper, safety formerly of the New Orleans Saints. But I think it would be great if they could get a little bit of stability in there. And you get that by drafting some players that are going to be under team control for at least 2 or 3 seasons. So I look for them to focus on the secondary. And lastly, we're going to look at the New Orleans Saints. Saints came into this offseason needing clear salary cap space in order to try to extend Jimmy Graham, who they have right now have the franchise tag on. Jimmy Graham has not signed that yet. But as a result of everything going on there and trying to get under the salary cap, they parted ways with a lot of veteran players. They traded Darren Sproles for a 5th-round draft pick to the Philadelphia Eagles very early in the offseason. And they also cut the cornerback Jabari Greer, Roman Harper, Will Smith, the linebacker, Lance Moore, wide receiver who had been on the team almost a decade, and linebacker Jonathan Vilma. Now, they did add arguably the best player available in free agency with Jarius Byrd, the safety from the Buffalo Bills. They also added the cornerback Champ Bailey, formerly of the Denver Broncos, but Bailey at this point is nothing but a figurehead. And Jarius Byrd, great player. If he's really all you got in that secondary, though, you're going to have some serious problems. So they're going to be looking for another cornerback in the draft. You got to figure having him at safety. They're going to be looking for some offensive line help, particularly at center. They did lose Brian De La Puente, their center, to the Chicago Bears, and Charles Brown, the offensive tackle, to the New York Jets. So they're going to be looking to replace those guys. They may be looking for a running back, depending on if they feel Mark Ingram and Pierre Thomas are going to be up to carry the load by themselves. Now, they both can handle some pass catching out of the backfield, but neither one of them has the explosive ability of a Darren Sproles. So how they look to replace him is going to be a very big key to the draft for them, I feel. Do they address it with a wide receiver? Do they address it with a Tavon Austin type guy or a Percy Harvin type guy who can line up with wide receiver and come out of the backfield for you? Or do you just go with a traditional running back who can catch passes out of the backfield for you? That's going to be interesting to see how they address that. And they're going to be looking for some help in their front seven. Like I said, they lost some veteran linebackers in Will Smith and Jonathan Vilma. They're going to be looking to replace those, and they're going to need some help on front, particularly on the outside. So right now, listen, this is one of those divisions, like I said, any way you stack them right now, there is no wrong answer. I think Tampa Bay still has a long ways to go. Atlanta's made some strides. I still think Carolina and the New Orleans Saints are the best two teams in this division, though. So check out everything else that is on This Is Sports Zone. You got the latest from writers Tom Lembo, David Tice, George Murphy, Jake Dixon, and Jay Rofsky on the website and the Facebook page. And please visit and continue to like the Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter at WeAreSportsZone. Send us any questions and comments you may have. Once again, as always, thanks for watching, everybody. For This Is Sports Zone, I am Mike Aglialoro, and we will see you next time, folks.